Few images can stir our fears and inspire our awe more powerfully than that of a shark. And few men have captured more images of sharks than a daring filmmaker named Al Giddings. From documenting shark behavior in the wild to handling wild sharks for a Hollywood movie, Giddings' experience with these creatures is unparalleled and unique. Join us now as we chronicle Al Giddings' encounters with the most fearsome creatures of the sea. $100 million years of evolution have created nature's most frightening killing machine, an elusive super predator known as the great white shark. They have lived in the world's oceans since before the time of the dinosaurs and remain one of the sea's greatest mysteries. These revealing images of the great white were captured on film by one of the world's most daring and accomplished underwater filmmakers. His name is Al Giddings. Giddings is a bold pioneer in the often dangerous art of documenting shark behavior.
That stuff's going right down off the drop bar. If sharks don't react in the next 10 minutes, I'll be real surprised. You want the 5.9 back there? Yeah, I'll take that other camera right now.
He has spent more time in the water filming sharks than probably any man alive. Stalking the shark cage, an 18-foot, 3,000-pound great white.
It's one thing to see them from the surface. It's a whole other thing to be in the water with them. The first time I was really exposed to a big great white, I just sat there and stared in disbelief.
Many times since then, Giddings has been forced to take refuge behind the protective bars of the cage. For reasons unknown, the shark simply chose to attack. The shark has bitten Giddings' camera.
Water in it? Yeah, look at the dome. You were getting a real ride for your money there. It's a pity about the camera, though.
I looked in through the dome. There's water all around the inside. Really come in and just really pounded it.
For Al Giddings, close calls like this one are a regular and accepted part of his life.
Al, the dent on the top.
All the abuse this is taken without being marked at all, and look at that.
Bam.
That's getting close. Right through to the metal.
Boy, is that fun!
Al Giddings' experience with great whites has gone far beyond the bounds of cinematography. In 1962, while diving near San Francisco, he witnessed an attack on his friend and business partner, Leroy French.
I saw a great tail come up over his head behind him. He couldn't see it, but he could see reflected in my eyes the terror and total amazement, and could hear the rush of water behind him. And of course, he'd already been hit once, so he knew it was coming again. And sort of before my unbelieving eyes, the tail went up, went down alongside of him. He disappeared and was gone. I continued on sort of in dream time and got to him, or got to the spot where he disappeared. He wasn't there. I looked around frantically, and he popped up next to me, clawing and spitting and carrying on and screaming then a number of octaves above what one would think humanly possible. And somehow I got around him and under him and got him on his back and took off with him. And 2 years and 450 stitches later, he was walking again.
That traumatic experience was the beginning of an enduring fascination with the most mysterious and dangerous creature of the sea. An animal whose teeth and jaws can tear 40 pounds of flesh with a single bite. An animal whose nose can sense a single drop of blood in 1 million gallons of water. Until relatively recently, great whites were considered far too difficult to study or film in the open sea. So most knowledge of the shark was drawn from anecdote and conjecture, or gained by examining dead specimens. Al Giddings helped change all that. By combining new baiting methods, protective shark cages, and creative camera techniques, the behavior of the great white shark could be documented in its natural environment. Scientists could now observe and study such things as the complex biomechanics of feeding behavior. Even greater insights were gained by using the camera to slow down behavior too fast for the eye to see.
Shooting high speed, ultra slow motion, 200, 300, 400 frames per second would give us images the likes of which no one had seen before. We saw for the first time that white sharks at that moment of strike are really blind, and the animal would protect the optics in the sensitive part of its eye by rotating its eyeball back in its socket.
The phenomena prevents damage to the eye from the sharp teeth and nails of the shark's struggling prey, such as large elephant seals. Al Giddings' slow-motion footage would also reveal that the great white's jaws are very loosely fitted. The upper jaw is not fixed to the roof of the mouth, allowing it to extend outward and provide extra reach when attacking its victims.
I've been very pleased that those images have been helpful in the research. In fact, I think a couple of scientific papers came out of that.
The San Francisco Bay Area is the place Al Giddings calls home. He was born and raised here, and as a teenager, used a primitive aqualung and an improvised underwater camera to be among the very first to record the teeming marine life of these waters. The passions of Giddings' youth have never waned. For the last 25 years, he has continued to explore and reveal the world's ocean environments, normally beyond our view. At his studio and production facility, Giddings constantly develops new means and techniques of underwater filmmaking.
How you doing with that lens?
Pretty good, Al.
His studio includes a machine shop with lathes and pressure chambers that make possible the design, construction, and testing of underwater lighting equipment, optical systems, and specialized cameras.
Great for testing.
Giddings' first camera, which he made watertight with a housing fashioned from an automobile oil filter, is among his cherished mementos, gathered during a distinguished career as an underwater filmmaker and explorer. It is a career that has allowed him to spend more than 20,000 hours under the sea. Giddings has dived in the brutally demanding waters beneath the North Pole, fighting sub-zero temperatures and freezing equipment to document an ocean realm of awesome crystalline beauty. He was among the first to explore and film the eerie graveyard of Truk Lagoon in the South Pacific, the dangerous site of a sunken World War II Japanese fleet, scattered with silent implements of war and unexploded ordnance. In a scientific research sub deep off the Galapagos Islands, Giddings documented newly discovered forms of life.
I made 9 dives and spent about 81 hours at 8,500 feet. And each time I'd come to the surface, I was sharing images with the leading scientists in the world, and they were seeing animals no human being had ever seen before. I can remember saying to scientist Fred Grassley, "Fred, what is that?" And he would say, "I don't know."
Yet over the years, there's remained for Giddings a special, compelling fascination with sharks. In 1979, he conducts his first expedition to Dangerous Reef, South Australia. Al Giddings has assembled a special team to study and film the behavior of the great white sharks. Included is world-renowned shark expert Dr. John McCosker, director of San Francisco's Steinhardt Aquarium. Rodney Fox, a former Australian spearfishing champion, is an expert in the baiting techniques that will attract sharks to the boat.
Take the scent away to another area, the sharks could just...
The process of attracting the elusive great white can take days, but Fox has perfected his own special recipe of blood, oil, minced fish, and red meat, which is washed into the sea to create a 5-mile scent trail. Rodney Fox knows this predator well. 16 years before, he was its prey.
I was about 20 feet under the water and snorkeling along with just no scuba tanks or anything, with the spear gun in front of me, and I had sighted a fish when all of a sudden a great thrash and a crunch in my left-hand side. It grabbed me around the chest, and I knew instinctively that it had to be a great white. I raced up to the surface and had one breath of air and got dragged down underwater as the shark grabbed hold of a big nylon buoy I was towing and towed me through the water again. Miraculously, the cord that I was towing behind me had snapped, and I managed to just float up to the surface, and the boat was on its way out, saw all the blood in the water, and quickly pulled me on board and raced me into hospital, where I was repaired fairly quickly.
Fox believes he survived because his wetsuit held his body together.
That far out would be good, or wait in the rail.
The first shark to come in had everybody so hyped. I mean, these animals are enormous. Try to imagine a shark that's 6 foot thick. Not 6 foot long, 6 foot thick and 18 feet long and weighs 3,000 or 4,000 pounds and opens a mouth that would take in a 50-gallon drum. I mean, people were really impressed. I was too.
A sharp barb attached to a telemetric device will be used by Dr. McCosker in an attempt to gather new knowledge from a living shark. Because the great white is so difficult to study, some of its aggressive behavior has long been misinterpreted. Ancient lore of the sea, for example, tells of great white sharks attacking ships. Great whites do, in fact, attack ships, but McCosker believes it's out of confusion rather than savage viciousness. The head and lower jaw of great white sharks are dotted with tiny pores capable of sensing the minute electromagnetic fields that emanate from all forms of life. Metals in seawater can produce a similar electrical field, causing a shark to confuse it with prey. Dr. McCosker's unique experiment will require him to implant the dart and transmitter deep into the muscles of a swimming shark. A task much easier said than done.
What we really need now is 6 or 8 floating baits out here, and let him come in and take 1 or 2 or 3. Well, look how there he is now.
McCosker's plan doesn't work. The dart fails to pierce the shark's tough skin. The team now decides to attempt the darting from underwater with a spear gun.
Can you guys pull in one of those cages?
Rodney Fox will shoot still photos while Giddings films the entire experiment from a separate underwater cage. Darting the shark in this manner is potentially far more dangerous than the topside method.
The cages are free floating, and the sharks can't really get a purchase. Like a kid bobbing for apples, they can't really get leverage. If they put a lot of pressure on the cage, they push it around. If the shark gets its head stuck in the cage, then it's a whole other ballgame. It gets very dangerous because the shark can easily tear the cage apart in a heartbeat.
A few moments later, the worst-case scenario begins to unfold.
He's got the cage. It's stuck.
Luckily, the great white manages to free itself.
See that? What's that problem? He got his head caught in the cage, and he couldn't get his nose out, and he was really thumping that cage around then.
Emotionally shaken, but still determined, McCosker will try again. He aims, then shoots. A successful hit. Now the position and speed of a great white shark in the wild can be tracked. Also received by telemetry is previously unknown data about the relationship between the temperature of the shark's body and the surrounding water. It's information that will reveal to Dr. McCosker the surprising fact that great white sharks are relatively warm-blooded creatures. Despite what has been learned, the great white shark remains largely unknown. Even its numbers and ultimate size are still a matter of mystery. The Coral Sea of Australia, 1984. Al Giddings has come here to document a feeding frenzy. The chainmail suit he will wear underwater offers far more protection than Giddings had when he first filmed the competitive feeding of reef sharks more than 20 years before.
One of the first films that I ever did, first 16mm films with a hand-wind Bolex, was in Tahiti filming gray reef sharks, and it was pretty nerve-wracking business. These sharks were very fast, and there was no question they could do major damage if you made a mistake. That was the first time I saw reef sharks respond to speared fish, and I was very excited that no one had ever seen any of this, but we had no way of knowing, how close we could really get. We were pushing the envelope, and each time we pushed a little more.
Unlike great whites, the explosively quick reef sharks hunt and feed in a pack, and while other sharks attack only for food, gray reef sharks react aggressively to anything in their territory. It was here that Giddings first observed the now scientifically well-known pre-attack posture of reef sharks. The behavior begins with jerky, exaggerated swimming motions. The shark then arches its back and lowers its pectoral fins in warning. The posture is akin to an angry dog baring its teeth in threat. 25 years of diving experience has imbued in Giddings a healthy respect for the potential dangers of gray reef sharks. A steel mesh suit that covers the entire body is now considered essential equipment when their aggressive feeding behavior is documented.
Gray reef sharks are very competitive, and I have over the years set up for various film purposes and research purposes feeding frenzies, and by baiting them with fish you can realize a pretty dynamic bit of feeding.
Giddings shakes the cage to spread the scent of the bait into the water. If reef sharks are nearby, their powerful sense of smell will quickly lure them to the cage. Within minutes, the first shark arrives.
One will come in and begin to bolt and hustle the bait, and then from all points in the compass, sharks are coming at as fast as they can swim, perhaps 30 knots. They're very fast and capable, extremely sharp teeth, and they just don't back off until there's nothing left.
feeding frenzy begins. In completely natural conditions, large schools of reef sharks could attack and disintegrate marlin or other large billfish in a matter of seconds. A single shark moves in towards Giddings as he prepares bait for additional filming. Giddings is bitten and reacts instinctively to protect himself.
My response was automatic. I mean, I don't go around punching sharks, but I was defending myself in some sort of feeble way.
I couldn't, you know, the first time in my life I've ever been bit.
See the holes right there? But not through.
Yeah.
And I guess I had such smell on my hand that
right.
all of a sudden, you know, my hand was going like this.
28 miles off the coast of San Francisco, California, lies a jagged outcropping of land called the Farallon Islands. It's a home, sanctuary, and breeding grounds for tens of thousands of seals and sea lions. 20 years ago, they were nearly extinct here, but their population has exploded thanks to a Marine Mammal Protection Act. In turn, the number of great white sharks in these waters has also grown dramatically.
Great whites will, on occasion, go into the shallows and really create chaos with sea lions and other animals. They'll rush the beach and the animals explode and start going into the water, and in the confusion become really vulnerable, and great whites will take advantage of that and feed. I put together a sequence that demonstrated in slow motion what I've seen happen at the Farallones and other places.
It is a classic film study of a million-year-old relationship between predator and prey. Some of the lucky survivors bear the telltale scars of unrelenting attacks by great white sharks. Seals and sea lions, however, are not the only victims. Humans, mainly surfers, have also become the prey of the ocean's ultimate predator. Responding to boom times in their food supply, great whites now breed more rapidly and attack people more frequently. The coastal waters of Northern California now have the highest incidence of human attack in the world. Why great whites choose human prey is not fully understood. It is one of the countless questions about these mysterious creatures who, unlike gorillas or lions, do not readily lend themselves to study in the wild. In 1980 in Northern California, a 7-foot, 300-pound baby great white shark is netted by a fisherman. This extremely rare catch provides for Dr. McCosker and other scientists at San Francisco Steinhardt Aquarium a unique opportunity to study a living great white shark. A great white had never been kept successfully in captivity, but Dr. McCosker had designed and built a 100,000-gallon circular tank with that purpose in mind. The captive shark is nicknamed Sandy, and she becomes an instant sensation. 40,000 people would come to see her over one weekend. Al Giddings would enter the tank to record her behavior on film.
I got a call one afternoon from John, and he said, we've got a healthy, small female great white swimming in the roundabout. So a few hours later, I was in the aquarium with a camera and John, and of course he was very excited because no one has ever kept a great white in captivity. However, by the fourth or fifth day, she was really not doing well and running into the walls and seemed to be responding to metal in the tank that perhaps through some sort of electrolysis was raising havoc with her sensor systems. And I was concerned that Sandy was pretty feeble at that point in time and really wouldn't make it.
Sandy had lost her appetite, her equilibrium, her sense of direction. She was guided through the tank to keep water moving over her gills. Her condition was grave.
There's nothing there. It just keeps going. Every time I get her up, she goes right smack down.
Dr. McCosker makes the difficult decision to return Sandy to the sea. It becomes a national media event and a heated controversy. While there is strong public support for Sandy's release from captivity, some people question the wisdom of freeing a potential man-eater. Dr. McCosker's plan is to return Sandy to the Farallon Islands where she had been caught. He could only hope she would survive the 3-hour journey. Al Giddings will attempt to document on film the historic moment of Sandy's release to the freedom of the ocean.
I got in the water with a camera and thought that I'd catch her when they slipped her over the side and perhaps swim her around a little bit, hoping to revive her a little bit more. And I was pretty convinced that she wasn't going to make it. So much for what I imagined. She slid into the water. I grabbed her tail as she went by, and she just exploded. It was really a magic moment. I mean, out of nowhere came this burst of energy and power and left us in total disbelief.
He's really moving.
We've got one hungry, happy white shark out
Like
there.
a shot.
Rolling that back, right?
Swimming, and Elsie's on her way to the Farallones.
I had to hold her tail on the camera like this.
For Al Giddings, another unique adventure, and a time to share a filmmaker's tale of the fish and the footage that got away.
I mean, where we stopped, I mean, the visibility was 40 feet. It was really clear. We could have done some shooting, you know, and done that scene where she fades off into the sunset across the
One last
But
hand.
she wasn't
gonna
hang around for it. But she wasn't up. She said
instantly to life.
she knew that she was cooking and she was gone.
All right, then.
Al Giddings' filmmaking credits include many Hollywood movies.
Keep concentrated. All right, action, Jackie, action.
The film is The Deep, starring Jacqueline Bisset and Nick Nolte. Giddings was in charge of underwater photography.
My approach to the film was, let's do this film as a creative director of photography would topside.
Listen, I told you, you gotta stay with me.
We made 10,500 dives, shot 500,000 feet of film underwater. I built 3 cameras for The Deep, professional 35mm motion picture cameras, and we built PA systems so that we could talk underwater. Imagine a sound stage in Hollywood with legions of people and then put them all underwater.
An ideal shot would be if there was a shark.
The script called for a technically challenging scene in which the stars are menaced by sharks while diving for sunken treasure.
Once I looked at the storyboards, I was convinced that the way to shoot this was to do it with gray reef sharks in Australia. Of course, the principals were in Bermuda, and we shot all the close-ups and all the cutaways and the medium shots in Bermuda. But we didn't really get them involved in the shark action. We went off to Australia to do that with doubles. To set up a feeding situation, you bait strategically. We took certain props to Australia that we'd had in Bermuda, except this time we baited strategically, baited the hoses, baited the props so that sharks would circle around the bait. Hollywood might have tried something with rubber sharks or who knows what, but knowing something of the natural history, I turned it a bit so that it would play for us in a theatrical sense, and it was great.
All right, now be ready. Hold the footage unless they're really close. Don't shoot till they're close. Let him take the hose. He's going to take the bait. Shoot it. Shoot it. Okay, Howard, you okay? Back away. Back away. I'll shoot a close-up here. Back away from him. I'll shoot. I'll cover it. Back away. Keep shooting. Don't cut. Keep shooting. Go on. Kick at them. If they really hustle you, kick at them. Beautiful, beautiful. Shoot. Get out of there, Howard. Howard, get out of there. All right, hey, good. All right.
A big nurse shark came up.
The dangerous scene accomplished, Giddings can now relax and savor the success.
And rolled over and over until he was just all twisted up in a thing like this, and we were
For the movie-going audience, the final scene looked like this. Before he filmed a potentially dangerous stunt sequence for a James Bond movie, Al Giddings put his own life on the line.
I actually did the keel hauling a couple of times myself. I'm usually involved trying the stunt to see what I'm really asking of those people that are going to be on camera.
Once again, hurry!
Giddings always insists on careful planning and preparation before filming any scenes in the water. Now it was time for the sharks to perform what appears as a deadly attack. Al Giddings ingeniously filmed the scene using wild, captured sharks in a shallow ocean lagoon.
Sharks in captivity are not thinking about feeding, and certainly attacking, and all of those normal instincts are pretty muted. I hired a couple of people from the Miami Seaquarium. They caught 2 very fine tiger sharks. We netted off an area in a shallow place in the Bahamas, set up a stunt man with protection under the clothes that he wore, and then had the shark handlers release these tigers sort of pointed up toward the guy who was struggling on the surface. After a number of experiments, I found that a strategically released tiger shark would automatically give 3 or 4 straightforward kicks, which would put them at the surface and, in fact, on the stunt double. It was a buckaroo situation. I would ease in with the camera between these 2 guys with the sharks out of frame right and left, roll the camera, cue a second camera at a different angle, and the stunt double would begin to struggle as if he'd just hit the water. They'd release the sharks, and the illusion for Hollywood was complete. The art of illusion, it's great fun, but my first love and interest has always been natural history filmmaking.
Over the course of his career, Giddings has shot more than 1 million feet of film, not just of sharks, but of virtually every kind of marine creature and environment.
I started diving in the 50s, and there was no one at that time really diving in California. So every time we put our face in the water, we were seeing something no human being had ever seen before. It's a grand statement, but absolutely true.
Al Giddings' passion for recording these sights on film has revealed a wondrous undersea realm of spectacular natural beauty.
I think the most spectacular shot I've done is the humpback mother and calf in Hawaii years ago. Our experience until then was you'd get within 100 feet or so, they would turn and move off, and I didn't expect that she would let me approach her. And when I finally stopped, I mean, in her shadow 5 feet away, you know, it was sort of like almost a religious moment. I can't really describe what it's like to be next to a living, breathing animal that's 60 feet long and weighs 60 tons. Just feeling so emotionally charged and sort of humbled by the experience. I couldn't get any closer without colliding with her, and there was no question that behind that wonderful eye there was a giant brain that was pondering me, and I backed off a bit. She brought her flipper up under me and just eased off, and it was a wonderful experience.
Another memorable experience took place off the Maldive Islands in the Indian Ocean. Herwarth Voigtman and Verini Graver had come to Giddings' attention because of their reported ability to feed wild sharks in the open ocean by hand. Al Giddings brought his camera and his filmmaker's curiosity.
I'd read an article or two about this guy and how he was training gray reef sharks, which I know are very high speed, very dangerous sharks. And I thought that would be a pretty exciting thing to film. I saw him manage the animals, and when 3 or 4 came in, he would tap them on the nose with the back of his knife and move them off, sort of as a lion tamer would. I could see he clearly understood what he could get away with and what he couldn't get away with. It seemed that Voigtman had started by placing bait 20 feet away and having the sharks come in and take it. Then 10 feet away, 5 feet away, eventually fed them by hand. And he really understood how to work with these animals.
Most scientists then believed that training a shark was impossible. The behavior Giddings documented would force them to change their minds.
At one point, he actually took half a fish and allowed a gray reef shark to come in and actually take it out of his mouth. I was astounded and delighted. Even though that experiment was outrageous, all of those things have contributed to what we know about these animals.
On a visit to Tahiti, Al Giddings encountered something which at first glance shocked him. Children playing with nurse sharks as if they were household pets. The scenes he filmed are captivating, but for Giddings, speak to a larger point.
Sharks really have had a bad rap. People think that all sharks are terribly dangerous, and that's not the case at all. Nurse sharks are not super aggressive, but they have terrific dentures, and certainly if you weren't careful, you could realize a real bite for your effort. But of the 250 or 260 different kinds of sharks in the world, I think there's a handful that are really dangerous and get my full attention when I'm in the water.
The cool waters off South Australia are a favorite home for the shark that has always received Al Giddings' greatest attention and respect. In 1984, Al Giddings returned here with Dr. John McCosker to document a series of unique experiments with the great white shark. The goal? To learn more about how and why great whites attack man.
It's always pleased me to try and involve somebody from the scientific community in my work. McCosker brought a small surfboard with him and a mannequin, and was very convinced that surfers especially would be viewed by a shark as a sea lion on the surface. I think in most cases, an attack is a case of mistaken identity. A surfer paddling with legs extended, as viewed from the bottom, looks like a sea lion laying on the surface. So I think whites come in, think they're looking at a sea lion, and circle slowly and close that to a point where they actually bump the subject a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, come up and actually bump and then move away quickly.
Supporting the theory of human attack by mistaken identity, the shark's predatory strategy remained classically predictable. Slow, decreasing spirals around the prey, leading to an exploratory bite, probably to cause hemorrhage and weaken the victim. All that now remained was the sudden, violent strike from behind. The crew had just about given up when it happened. Giddings and his crew could now document in detail the frightening final tactics of a great white shark attack. A second experiment would now be conducted to document if and how a great white shark will attack a human form, such as a scuba diver, underwater. The bait, a life-sized mannequin, designed to stand still and passively on the ocean floor. Once Giddings sets it in place, he retreats to the safety of the shark cage to observe and film the result. A great white arrives. It begins the careful stalking that usually ends with a strike from behind, yet the initial approach to its prey is always extremely cautious.
If a white had a clue as to its advantage and the fact that it could really come in and cut a diver in half, it would be a whole different process. But they don't understand that, and they come in cautiously and tighten their circles until perhaps they bump a few times. Then, if there's no radical response that puts them off, then they'll start to feed.
From his years of observing shark behavior, Giddings came to believe that an aggressive attitude and posture could prevent an attack. It's a bold and radical notion, received with healthy skepticism by experts, like Rodney Fox.
If you got out just then, do you think that guy would have taken you?
I wouldn't have liked to have taken the chance.
Rodney, I think you could get out there, and if you were still and not kicking away from him or swimming away from him, but just watching him and turning in a circle like that and shooting, I think you could stand out there for 20 minutes and shoot all you wanted.
Al Giddings is determined to prove his theory. First, he would use an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle, equipped with a small television camera. From the mothership above, it will be maneuvered to behave both passively and aggressively while confronting a great white shark. Launched from the cage on the ocean floor, the ROV will serve as bait. Now Giddings sets the robot loose.
The remotely operated vehicle that we used in Australia was a $50,000 piece of equipment. And when I suggested putting that in the water with the great white, everyone thought I was crazy. John, in fact, said, I really think that the shark will make short work of your little machine. This could be a very short and expensive experiment.
The test begins with the ROV held motionless and unthreatening in the water. The shark begins to stalk its prey in a slow, ever-tightening circle. After several minutes, a sudden attack. Now the ROV goes on the offensive. It begins aggressively pursuing the shark. True to Giddings' prediction, the great white shark retreats. Encouraged by these results, Al Giddings now begins his ultimate experiment. He leaves the protection of the cage to confront the great white in open water. Giddings uses his camera to intimidate the shark, to signal he is not prey.
Most predators are very jumpy. In the wild, predators barely have the advantage, and I think that most predators are very cautious of anything they're not sure of. And every time, one of these animals came in for a look, I moved forward aggressively, it confused them. They'd never dealt with anything like that. I would always maintain eye contact, always let them know that I knew they were there, and never give them the element of surprise.
With 2 sharks now circling, Giddings uses a pole for a margin of protection. No one before has ever attempted such a daring personal test.
I don't see myself as some sort of an evil Knievel or somebody that's out there pounding on his chest and hoping that I'm not going to get hurt. So it was something that I did after a few hundred hours of watching very carefully and getting to know these animals a little bit.
With 3 great whites around him, Giddings finally retreats. His experiment is a success, and good reason for celebration.
Been going around and be passes after passes. I mean, nobody's ever pushed it like this. Were you running tapes all the time?
For Al Giddings, this bold experiment is much more than a triumph of personal courage. It is a triumph of understanding about a mysterious creature he has come to know very well.
Well, my attitude about sharks certainly has changed. 20 years ago, I couldn't conceive of anyone going out into open water with a great white. So we learn through experience, and we learn through sort of pushing the envelope. And I've learned that they're not an overwhelming sort of adversary, and that they're very approachable. I think that sharks are great survivors. They've been around for millions of years, and would have said a few years ago that sharks will survive beyond us. However, I've been concerned that this magnificent predator would be eliminated by overfishing and people catching them for sport. Like the wolves and the grizzlies, great whites are a symbol of something wild and wonderful, a symbol of freedom, and something that I think is terribly important to us as human beings.